Well, happy Thursday, friend, and welcome back to the Decision Masters podcast. I'm Kirsten, your decision coach for the episode, and we are continuing our workshop snippet series of podcast episodes. These are episodes I pulled from a workshop I did with a coaching group all about cognitive biases and tendencies. You have another short and sweet episode coming at you, which I almost rethought. I was like, is this enough? Should I add more stuff in here? Should we go on to the next bias? But I really think these ideas are worth marinating on, especially if you're one of my beloved weekly listeners. First of all, hi, thanks. Great to connect with you again. I'm so glad that you continue to get value from these things I put out into the world. So if you are listening to this series all in a row, then great. I hope something really stands out and helps you focus on what you need to hear today. If you are listening to this week by week, I think spending 5 minutes today, which is literally how long this snippet is from the workshop on negativity bias, spending 5 minutes hearing about negativity bias and the different ways your brain is wired to work and judge things and hear things is worth taking into the rest of your week just to see, how is this affecting my perspective? How is this affecting my decisions? How is this affecting what I think is and isn't possible or available to me? So what you're about to hear, just to give you a little prep, we're going to talk about the framing effect, which is what effect does the framing of a question or an option or something being sold to you or something you are considering deciding, how does the framing of that affect what you hear, what you think, what you're biased towards believing? You're going to hear about loss aversion and how you are primed to not want to lose things you already own. And we really want to pay attention to how is this affecting the decisions you make and the opportunities you say yes and no to and the obligations and requests you say yes and no to. Loss aversion can work in our favor and work against us. So really want to be aware of it. And then you're going to hear about the endowment effect, this phenomena that has us listing things on Facebook Marketplace for $600 that we wouldn't buy ourselves for more than $200. And then at the end, we talk about how to address, work around, bring awareness to these different cognitive tendencies so you can make intentional, conscious choices as opposed to just being yanked around by your biases and limiting your options and limiting how authentic your decisions can really be. So I hope you get a lot out of this short and sweet episode and pay attention to what's going on in your brain this week. Negativity bias is probably one of the biases that we're most familiar with, but I think this nuanced understanding of how negative information has a greater impact than positive information is actually lost on a lot of people. So we need to up your decision mastery. And here we are. You're doing it. You're doing a great job, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, negativity bias, our old buddy. Everybody knows about negativity bias. Negative information and events have a greater impact than the positive. There was a study that they did on Amazon reviews, and it's not just that the negative reviews had more of an impact than the positive. The scale of the impact was so much greater from negative reviews than positive reviews. So let me go into a little bit of how this happens. The framing effect is something I wish we learned this in school because, oh my gosh, does it affect financial decisions? Does it affect business, career, professional decisions, vacation and leisure and fun and relationship, interpersonal decisions? You betcha. We tend to avoid options framed in terms of negative attributes, even though we say that we would absolutely take that option if it was phrased the exact opposite way in the positive. An example of this is people would rather take a flight that is on time 88% of the time. Same pool of people would not elect to take a flight that's late 12% of the time. Same plane, same flight, same success and failure rate when it comes to on time or late. But just that change in how the question is framed. How likely are you to take a flight that's late 12% of the time? No, thank you. How likely are you to take a flight that's on time 88% of the time? Yeah, sounds good.
This is so helpful to be aware of when we're getting sold and when we're trying to sell ourselves on things, when we're trying to work through a decision about what do I want to do? What am I drawn to? What's appealing and what's deterring? The opposite of appealing. So, we're going to get to how to kind of work around this in the next slide. There's also loss aversion. I think many of you have probably heard of Daniel Kahneman. He's written a lot of books, won a Nobel Prize. Daniel Kahneman and his research partner, Amos Tversky, found that the feeling you experience in your body, the physiological feeling that you experience about $100 is different when you lose it versus when you gain it. Loss aversion is a big influencer of our decisions because we don't like the feeling of losing what we already have. And a little bit of that goes into the endowment effect. You can want to sell something and value it at $50 because it's yours. And you can be shopping on Poshmark or Facebook Marketplace for the exact same thing. You can see something that's used the same amount as yours. It's the same condition as yours, but you as the buyer is like $50? Maybe I would pay 20 for that. This endowment effect of something being more valuable simply because you already own it is also why it's harder to get rid of stuff and declutter than we think it should be or we want it to be. So, what to do? This is so fun because these things don't have to run our lives, it turns out. One really powerful one, speaking to the framing effect, is proactively reframing questions. I think this is so valuable for our decision making. Just making sure we look at what question am I asking myself? How am I phrasing this option? I was working with someone one time who was really angsting over her holiday plans because her family lived out of the country and she was going to potentially miss out on all of these things and maybe disappoint her mom and all these things. It was really important for her to look at the way she was framing that option, simply so that she could give herself the chance to phrase it differently and see what she thought. It's really powerful to be able to reframe as you go into what courses am I going to take? How am I going to structure the LLC I'm setting up with my business partner? What vacations am I going to go on and not go on? It's interesting to look at the way you're framing the options for yourself. For the loss aversion and the endowment effect a little bit, distancing yourself from things you own can help you psychologically distance from them. And literally, if we're talking about decluttering, we can use the Marie Kondo example. She has you take all the out of its home. It's not in your closet. It's not in your drawers. It's just in a pile. It's all together. That creates a little bit of a distancing effect. So it's not as if you are looking at a painting already on your wall, hanging where it's always hung. It looks right and it feels right in your home, and you're thinking, ooh, do I want to get rid of this? It's different than if you find it in storage and you forgot about it and you're looking at it in a pile of other paintings. You're like, oh, do I want this? I don't know. And then asking yourself if you'd elect to buy something or do something if you didn't already own it or if you weren't already doing it is a really useful perspective check on, do I want to do or keep this thing?
Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.